Hello everyone, my name is Sonia Marziano and I work for the Smart Chicago Collaborative. Smart Chicago is a civic organization devoted to improving lives in Chicago through technology. I run the CUTGroup for Smart Chicago, which is a new model of UX testing, digital skills, and civic engagement. So first off, I just want to thank you for coming to the session today. There's a lot of great sessions at the entire summit and happening right now. I really appreciate you, and I can't wait to talk about user testing, community engagement, and hear more about the work that you are doing as well. So this is actually my first summit. I'm really excited to be here, and it's kind of acts as a continuation of other conversations that I've had with Code for America, Brigades, other organizations about how to run a CUTGroup, how to build a CUTGroup in their own city. In 2013, my executive director, Daniel O'Neill, actually presented about CUTGroup when it was just in its infancy, and described it as a model for changing relationships between government and residents. That was 2 years ago. And in those 2 years, we have doubled the size of the CUTGroup, from 500 people to over 1,000 people. We've done 16 more tests of different websites and applications. We've expanded from Chicago to the rest of Cook County because we understand the importance of reaching more of our region. And we have started to build new processes in order to engage with more of our community and our residents in this mode called CUTGroup. So I want to describe those accomplishments for us because it really talks to about how we continue to work on the CUTGroup and how we continue to build it and how we continue to change in order to accommodate more people in the CUTGroup. Basically, our work is never done. We always have to keep thinking about that engagement as we do our work. So I just wanted to get an idea from the audience as to how many people have conducted user testing before. Okay, that's actually a lot. That's great. And how many of you have participated as a tester? Okay, about the same. That's awesome to see. It's awesome to see when you are conducting user testing that you also go on the other side of it and participate as a tester. So I want you to think about that test. I want you to think about when you were either conducting a test or you were participating, and think about all the pieces that were a part of that experience, right? Think about where you were, who you were with, when it was, what you were testing. These are all the important parts of the CUTGroup experience. And then there's other things, like who told you about it and why did you go? Why did you do user testing? And then how was that experience? And so I would love to hear if anyone wants to contribute an experience about user testing that they've had personally. Yes?
I'd like for the people who haven't done it and they're in the room, I would like to recommend that you become user testers and do user tests because it really gives you a lot of insight into how to run your own tests. I mean, I'm a UX designer, so I think that I know how to do this, but then when you're on the other end, there's just a lot that you learn that you can't really get the other way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think an interesting nuance of distinction and tension and tough nut to crack in terms of prioritizing your time and energy is testing things that are already built for usability.
Mm-hmm.
You know, does this tool act the way you think it might do? Is it clear and compelling what you should do next? Is there a call to action? Versus getting towards leading indicators of usefulness and value, which is more like customer development, even like light ethnographic, observational.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an interesting balance, like you should figure out a way to work both into your workflow. Because sometimes when you're doing user testing, you've already invested in it and built it, even if you're doing it in staging. And so whether it's like, hey, let's put paper in front of people before we code it, or it's like there's an interesting tension of getting to root cause of pain points in today's behavior, or I have built this thing, do you know what to do with it? And I think there's a cool tension that you need to walk to kind of be successful.
Right. Anyone else? Yes.
I'm having trouble in my region just selling the importance of user testing, either at the beginning or the end. So that's one of the reasons I'm very interested in starting one of these groups.
Awesome. Anyone else? Yes.
Well, I think to that point, like the idea of validating concepts, validating work, just the word validation has so much assumption built into it. So getting more toward open-ended card sorting, for instance, or just coming to the user not as a researcher, but as a collaborator, and changing the language around. I think those are all kind of useful things, especially in government, where the more collaboration you have, the broad base of ideas that you have to work with as a designer. Those are all things that I've noticed perform better in my work, for instance.
So I want to tell you my first experience with user testing. I do not come from the UX experience background or a designer background. I started at Smart Chicago about 2 years ago, and we had a test coming up, and Dan O'Neill invited me to participate. So I kind of knew what CUTGroup was, but I had no clue what it looked like or what it was going to mean for me or what was going to happen in that space. So basically what it was an experience where we packed up these computers, we went down to a neighborhood, we went to the neighborhood library in Grand Boulevard in Chicago, and we went to the meeting space in that library. And it was a mix of structure and chaos. And I think some of that with usability is that you have to accept that there is going to be chaos around the work that you're doing. But when I walked in, what I really saw was a community group. And this was surprising to me because my past assumptions about what usability was a very scientific one, right? I thought about usability as testing people and mirrors, two-way mirrors, and video cameras, and trying to capture the reaction, and testing feelings and things like that. And that wasn't what CUTGroup was. CUTGroup was about conversations with residents that dealt with the technical, how they were navigating the website, how they were completing tasks, but also the non-technical. So what are the non-technical things that they deal with in their normal day-to-day, and how do they use technology or don't use technology? And so that was personally a really cool experience, and ever since that test, I have been managing and running the CUTGroup because it was such a valuable thing to sit in front of people and talk to them about technology. So, Smart Chicago, again, civic organization devoted to improving lives in Chicago through technology. But I want to skip right into it. So, what is the CUTGroup? The CUTGroup, in the most simplest, basic form, is a community of over 1,000 residents in Chicago and Cook County. The second piece to this is that they get paid to test websites and apps to help create better technology. And all this work happens around this motto. If it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work. This is basically a mantra that Dan O'Neill started when he laid the foundation of the CUTGroup, and it's still as important today as it was at the beginning. And the reason for that, and the reason why I love this sentiment so much and why it's so key to our work, is that it removes the idea that residents do not understand technology as well as technologists, and it allows them to participate and give their feedback and give their ideas to the process of building better technology. And so this is at the core of our work. If it doesn't work for you, it just doesn't work. And so at Smart Chicago, we are very into documenting and sharing processes and sharing everything that we do and how we do it. And so we wrote a book about how to run a CUTGroup in your own city. This is the link. You can download it for free. You can read it online. This lays out everything that we do, all the tools that we use, why we do things the way we do them. But there's a bigger question that I think we can talk about here at CFA, and that is, what defines a CUTGroup? And so instead of talking to you about how to run a CUTGroup, I want to talk to you about how do you sustain a CUTGroup through the piece community engagement. And so what defines a CUTGroup is the people. Developers next to residents. This is the most important piece to everything that we do. It's the fact that these people are coming to the libraries on a certain day in all kinds of weather, taking buses, and coming to our meeting space in order to do usability testing. So, when is it a cut group? It's not a cut group if you only test Civic apps. It isn't about testing Civic apps because if you want to have a cut group, you have to put tech aside, not first. The Civic and Civic user testing group is about the group, not the user testing. We use this phrase a lot, Civic apps, right? You get paid to test Civic apps. And we are moving away from that. And it's a very important move for this program because the piece of technology being Civic tech or being defined as Civic tech is not important, okay? That's not how we decide when to test something and when not to test something. We care more about 3 criteria, the first being that people want their thing to be tested. People are asking for cut group testing and they're committed to being part of the process. The big part of the process being that they actually do the proctoring and they're the ones that are in front of residents working with them and talking to them themselves. The second criteria to getting something tested through the cut group is around whether or not the technology reaches a large or diverse group of people. We want to make sure that we're testing things that have or might have an impact on regular residents. And the last part is willingness to learn from people and take that feedback and then make the change and be responsive to the fact that these people have given you so much in terms of their feedback and their thoughts, and now that you're taking that and changing and updating website and technology. The other reason why we're moving away from the term Civic apps is because we don't know how people define themselves in being in Civic technology, and we want to be open to all sorts of individuals, groups, developers, organizations that are interested in implementing user feedback. So, more importantly, it is a cut group when you engage with people around technology. So, a cut group needs to lead with engaging with people, and it becomes easier to do that when you know that people actually want to help make tech better. And a lot of the times they don't necessarily have the opportunity, the time, or the space to do that. There are so many people that sign up for cut group for many reasons. It could be that they're interested in usability testing. It could be that they're interested in technology. It could be that they wanted a $5 gift card when they signed up. All of those reasons are okay. When they come, though, it is a fantastic experience. Out of all the 16 tests that I've been a part of, only one person said that they didn't like cut groups, so I think we're doing okay with our track record there. Here are some quotes, though, of why people are participating. I love being able to help contribute to the development of the product. It's so nice to blather on and on. I loved it. I'm ready for the next one. I was not expecting this. This was so fun. That's the core, right? So when you offer people time and space to give criticisms, to give their feedback to technology, you come away with a mutually beneficial relationship because they have a time and space to actually have these conversations that maybe in their normal day-to-day they never even thought of, or no one's ever asked them before how to make a better website or what they need or what technology they use. So before I go on, because I don't like speaking at people, I want to just pause for a moment and see if there's any questions or comments or anything about what I've just recently said. Yes, Shelley?
Yeah, of the large number of people that you're getting, you're holding all of these at the library, so kind of the central library location?
No, we actually go into the neighborhoods.
In neighborhoods, okay.
And yeah, so we are very lucky in Chicago to have a great public library system. There's 77 neighborhoods, community areas in Chicago, and there's a library in each neighborhood. So that is a great resource to us.
So you move them around?
Yes, and we intentionally move them around because we understand that sometimes it's difficult for some people to travel to other neighborhoods, and so we want to make sure that they are being included in the process. What is wonderful as well about the library is that it is a community space, and people know what a library is. So people will travel to other libraries. I think this is very interesting, where you have a city that might be very divided in some instances. To have people travel 15, 20 miles to another neighborhood that maybe they don't know nothing about, but know where they're going and know that they're going to be in a library, and they kind of have some semblance of what that will look like. I think that's very beneficial to us, and that's why people will travel.
And then I had a follow-up question. Of these 1,000 people, would you give a broad percentage as to how many are technical and how many are really just there as true, I call it humans? You know?
Yeah, I would say I couldn't give you a number. I don't know. A big reason for that is we don't actually ask a lot of questions about that. We want to be very open and keep our sign-up process as simple as possible. What's exciting for me is that in the next month, I'm actually going to be working with my colleague Denise Lynn, who's sitting in here, we're going to be working together on a test that relates to only digital skills. So we're going to be talking to people about how they talk about their own digital skills, where they see themselves on the continuum of digital skills training, what are their goals with technology. So this is going to be different for us because we're not going to be testing a site.
Do you ever do cut groups for public servants? So not citizen-facing apps, but like internal workflow stuff?
You know, that's we haven't yet. I've been working with Cook County on their redeveloping their website, and we started with a cut group with residents to see how, you know, which wireframes they like better, what were they expecting in terms of the information architecture. And I'm going to be working with the employees next to see about testing with them and see what they think and how they use the Cook County website. Yes?
How do you guys recruit? Like, how does a random person on the street find a job?
Yeah, so we do a lot of recruitment. Actually, you know what, I'm going to jump ahead to my slide about recruitment. No, it's actually the next thing. So, you know, how do you engage with through UX testing? And these are the steps to that, right? Inviting, asking, listening, and responding. So, inviting. So how we like to look at inviting or recruitment, and I like the word using inviting, bringing them in. They're part of a community. Is that we invite everyone, so people from both inside as well as outside of our networks. And we care a lot about, you know, first getting to the people we know. That's okay. We want everyone to be part of this experience. For outside of our network, we do a lot of traditional flyering. So we'll flyer at, you know, libraries and public computer centers and other, you know, community spaces like that. We do a lot of, once we built the network, we did a refer a friend campaign so that people could spread info to the rest of their network. So that was really, people love refer a friend. So that was also really valuable. And then we use our network. So once you decide that you want to do a cut group test with Smart Chicago, we actually consider it a partnership. So they also spread information to their network. Now, when they spread information to their network, even though they have a test coming up, we're not interested in having them only be part of that one test. We want to invite them into the group. And then when they're in the group, then they'll get information about that test, and then they'll get information about other tests, and then can choose how they want to participate. So that's how I do things. And a really valuable experience that we had was we were going to test a website about accessible transit routes in Chicago, and we didn't have too many people, or we didn't know if we had people with disabilities. And so instead of trying to poll and figure out if we had people with disabilities and try, you know, go through that process, we worked with a organization that was doing work with American Disabilities Act, 8825. And we spoke to them, and they just spread a ton of information to everyone they knew. And so we just got signups, and we didn't know if they had disabilities, we didn't know if they didn't, we didn't know who they were, but they were part of this group. So when that test did come, and we were asking that question about mobility issues and things like that, people could then respond and say yes. The great part of it, though, is now we have people who do have low vision, who are completely blind, showing up for tests. And I won't know until they get there that they have this. So we have started to invest in accessibility software, bringing iPads for blind testers, because it's more common and easier for them to use with the voiceover command. And that is an incredible experience, because people that didn't expect or weren't looking for accessibility information are getting this like huge amount of information. Like, where else would they get this? So I think it's been really great. And so once people are part of the CUT group, even if they came through from knowing their friend or from a flyer or from another organization, we care about building a one-on-one relationship that relates specifically to the CUT group. So even though, yes, you heard about it through this organization, now you're a CUT group member, you're like the rest of us. And so this is the point I want to drive home. I said I'm going to say everyone a lot here, but it's very important, and this is key. Everyone is right for CUT group, regardless of the tech you want to test. So the tech comes later, not first. So this is why I was saying before. Don't recruit based on the technology that you're going to be testing in the future. Just recruit everyone, and then as you start, doing tests, then you can gather more information about them and see if they qualify for the test. But as long as you're inviting them in, then you can you'll just have a better group of people, a more diverse set of individuals. Everyone means everyone. So recruitment is never over. At Smart Chicago, we just expanded into Cook County, so we're going into this new area with 5.2 million people, and this is new grounds for us. We have to find new public computer centers, we have to find new spaces, we need to find new organizations to work with, and think about how where people are going in those cities as well. And then finding new ways to engage with residents and making it easier for them to join. So I want to hit upon two examples of that as to what we did to be more inclusive. One is kind of a nitty-gritty detail, but we use physical gift cards, and we do this because, first off, it's the closest thing to cash that we can get. Now, physical gift cards and sending them out takes more time, it costs more, it's a little bit more of a hassle to do. However, it's really important for us to give something to our testers that they can use anywhere, and that they don't need digital skills to use them. So people always ask me, well, why don't I just send this gift card that's has no fees, and it's online, it goes directly to their email. What I've learned is that it is a big assumption that a lot of people even shop online, and this way we're not narrowing them to use a certain service, a certain like a company, or having to go online to use this gift card that they might not be familiar with. I'm also really proud that last week we at Smart Chicago implemented a way for people to sign up via text message. And within the next month, we're going to also be sending text message notifications about new tests. So what I heard from people is that, yes, they might have an email address, yes, they might have access to the internet, but they might not have regular access to the internet. And how we structure our call-outs and our correspondences have always been through email. And usually when a test date has been confirmed, we wait until about a week and a half before the test date to actually start the recruitment process, so it happens pretty quickly. We send out an initial call, we get screening questions, and we send out another email about availability. And if you're not connected to your phone or your email, or you're not checking it on a regular basis because you only have a couple hours at the library each week to do a bunch of things, then we're missing you, and I can't have that happen. And what I heard too is that 29% of our testers actually use public Wi-Fi or phone data as their primary form of connecting to the internet. So this is a big deal. And so by choosing these testers that might not be in front of their computers or connected all the time. We're putting them in front of the computers, we're putting them in front of technology, and then we have an opportunity to see about connecting them with digital resources in the city or making them aware of their neighborhood library, computer center, things of that sort. Did that answer your question about recruitment? Do you have any additional follow-up?
I'm curious, like how much, so you said that you're not looking for a specific type of user, etc., but you are collecting information about who, like, how much they use the internet, how they have access to it, but
Yes.
Profession, education level, like how much information do you collect?
You should be up here because like this is my next part of my presentation. So I feel like you're my plant, but no. So yes, the next part, so you built and you invited people into your CUTGroup. What's the next step? So it's the ask, right? It's how do you ask them to participate. So one thing, we don't do a lot of collecting of information from the front end, right? We gather information, their name, address, email address if they have one, phone number, whether or not they called 311 or in the city of Chicago, whether or not they voted in the recent election, and then a couple questions about primary device type and then primary connection. So we really care about experiences over demographics. And when we are ready to go with a test, we send out a bunch of screening questions. And these screening questions are when we start to dig deeper and really determine if they are right for the test that we're conducting. So the screening questions, this is an example, but when we're doing a CUTGroup test of the Chicago Public Schools website, we asked about, do they have children in Chicago Public Schools? What are the grades? What type of school do they go to? And then, this allows for us not to collect demographic information or private information like income type, education, race. That's not as important to us. So when we do have to ask it, because we did a test on a social service related website, people can choose and opt out of filling out those questions. And what's nice about this is that they can be part of the CUTGroup and not have to answer everything. And so we kind of keep the sign-up process really short and sweet, and then use the screening questions to learn more about our testers. Yes?
How do you deliver the screener questions? Is this like, because you had been talking about text messaging, which I thought was a really great
Yeah,
point.
so that's,
how does this work?
so we have not implemented that yet. That's the next thing. It's tough, right? Because like with screening questions, a lot of them have been, we do a lot of qualitative questions and long form and let people just kind of talk and tell us stuff. So that's going to be a challenge, but I think we can do it and we can determine exactly what questions to ask if that would, indicate that they're qualified. Currently, we use MailChimp for just the email platform, and then we use Wufoo forms, and Smart Chicago loves Wufoo forms, so we make a lot of Wufoo forms. And that's just how we manage a lot of it. A lot of it can be managed from like spreadsheets and segmenting through spreadsheets. We have been working on a database software to kind of manage the CUTGroup testers to get smarter about like what we've already asked testers, what we already know about them, and kind of build on that tech piece that's kind of behind the scenes. For the text messaging, we will be using Wufoo and Twilio to do that. Any other questions? I love questions.
This might be your next slide, but so the original, your umbrella group is what's that's where the funding comes in, the organization, the fundraising for the.
Right. So it was initially the CUTGroup fits a lot to our mission, and so it was very important for us to implement this program. So yes, at the beginning, it was funded by the Chicago Community Trust and MacArthur Foundation, who are two of our founding partners. Our third founding partner is the City of Chicago. They do not give us any monetary funds. So now we recently received a grant through the Knight Foundation to do a little bit more work on this on CUTGroup as well.
Do you have any experience with cut groups that are just starting or don't have like any kind of foundational monetary support to begin with?
Yeah, so Open Oakland actually has started a CUTGroup here. You are sitting next to someone as part of Open Oakland.
Right here.
Right, like,
Already.
Okay, I'm,
Yes.
I'm coloring you after.
yes. So I think Russell here, you should talk to him about the experiences that he's had. But yes, we've gotten interest from other groups, and that's kind of why we wrote it down, is because Open Oakland kept on asking us questions about how to run a CUTGroup, and we wanted to answer them fully, and so one day we wrote a book. And the actual monetary isn't as much as in terms of, like, we use a lot of lightweight tools, which is really helps us. It's really the gift cards and, you know, leveraging community resources in terms of space and maybe even equipment to do the testing.
Right, because you may know the book Rapid Surgery Made Easy, which is a book about community user testing and how people copy user testing and that sort of things.
All right. So the next thing is, once you've asked people into test, the listening portion, right? So we consider CUTGroup as an opportunity for open and honest feedback to happen, and we want people to feel comfortable in the space and to be able to participate and give a very honest feedback on whatever they're testing. So we go into the community, we do meet people in the community. As I said before, the library has been a wonderful resource for us. And then what we do is we talk about the person's experience, not just about how they use technology. So here are some examples, like, how do you typically learn about your child's school? Do you search online for blank? How do you find out about changes in your neighborhood? How would you describe the availability of arts programming in your neighborhood? What is your current relationship with health information on the internet? These open-ended questions are usually where the goal is, right? This is where we understand what people do on a normal day-to-day and see if tech intersects with that versus trying to fit the technology to their experiences. And so when we are listening to that, when we're doing testing, a lot of our work is around asking more and more questions, right? So when we're doing testing, understanding, why did you just click that? Why did you go there? What did you expect to happen when you clicked that? Did things meet your expectations? Why do you feel a certain way? Why don't you feel a certain way? Do you care to elaborate? Can you tell me more? And during sessions, we normally schedule them for about 30 to 45 minutes. A lot of sessions go on a lot longer than that. We have had testers stay an hour and a half, even longer, just hanging out and spewing information about their experiences. Denise is laughing back there because she had one of those experiences. It was fun. It's always fun. And then the next thing is, we always ask people, how would you improve this website? And I always say this phrase, tell us anything and everything you can. And why I say that is because I want to hear everything. I want to know any way that they want to improve the site. So this can be design, this could be font type, this could be they don't like the picture that you chose, they want the button moved. It could be, you know, bigger in terms of like the entire functionality of the site or what it does. But telling us everything, anything and everything you can is something that I use because I don't want testers to feel like their idea is too small or too big to offer to us. And the last piece is responding. So we use Wufoo as well to collect all the information. So how I set up the test is that the Wufoo form allows us to kind of use it as a script. So I go through a process of training the developers or the other staff members that are part of this process to prepare for the test, right? To understand how to do user testing, what questions to ask, how to deal with like things that go awry. And then we collect all of the responses in the WooFull form. And the next step is in sharing that with the organizations or the developers, and I do an extensive report about each question and look at like quantitative and qualitative data. But I try to pull out certain, quotes. The quotes are great, so I try to pull those out. And then, we do videos. We also do screencasts and pictures. And then I try to like help the developer as much as possible, right? I do make GitHub issues when possible, and I share the data online. So if you go onto the website, you can look at all of our past tests, see what we did, see kind of the big results from those tests, and then you can look at all the data, look at all the questions. We publish everything. And then pictures and documentations. So the next step for me is trying to find new ways to help developers make changes. So I've been thinking more and more about how do I give them information from these testers, because it can be a lot. If you have 10 to 20 testers in an evening, it can be a lot of information. And this is where we need to be. This is where the CUTGroup for Smart Chicago needs to go, is helping and assisting developers make those changes and know how to incorporate that feedback into their work. Because it comes back to this, right? If it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work. So now I would love to talk with you. Yes?
I have kind of a two-pronged question around usability testing.
Sure.
A little bit in my experience that a lot of times that you get different personality types.
Mm-hmm.
So it puts a lot of pressure on the types of questions you ask and the way that you move them through the test.
Yep.
And also their ability to like tap into why they're making certain decisions. They might not be able to always like vocally say that. So I just wanted to get your opinion on complementing what you're doing with other tools. Like there are tools that track eye movement and clicking patterns, and if you feel that's effective, and then also about remote testing, what your thoughts would be about the effectiveness of remote testing, because you miss a lot out on a lot of the things that open-ended things that you might get, but there could be some efficiencies in that.
Sure, I can speak to that. So we do not do any eye tracking. We do use a software called Screencast-O-Matic. It's a very free software, but what's nice about it is that you can download it on multiple computers, and it's really easy to use. And that's helpful, yeah, for sure. That's a really good way. I think that we do a lot of one-on-one proctoring when it comes to the actual tests. And so a lot of my training with the people who are coming, who are coming in as proctors for this particular test, so they're developers, they're maybe project managers, they might be organizational staff. I kind of go through the process of what does proctoring look like, and a lot of it is around almost like customer experience stuff, right? Thinking about inviting them in, having candy, snacks available, letting them feel comfortable and letting them come to you when they're ready to start testing. I always tell testers that I might get close, or I might, keep looking over your shoulder and let me know when I'm in your personal bubble, and just getting comfortable with each other. We also do a lot of background questions too. So we'll have questions that relate to the test. Maybe it's about schools, maybe it's about transit, and just learn about how they do those things. So like I said before, how do you learn about your child's school? When we asked that question, I learned that in Chicago Public Schools there were some high-tech solutions in terms of like apps that group text people, and there were Facebook groups for classrooms, and then there were low-tech things like people rely on hearing from other parents, people rely on notes home from the teacher-parent conferences. So those are really important things, and that kind of gets the comfort going. During the test too, it's easy for some people to like quiet down and just start doing tasks. And that's why we disperse some questions that are more about non-tech things, or why they did that. And just by asking someone like, why did you click on that, or is that working for you, or what did you expect to happen, or how would you improve that, just giving like some of those cues to allow them to give that feedback. It's really, really useful. And I found that a lot of quieter people, even if they don't speak as much, they still offer a lot of feedback through that, and they just need a nudge. What was your second part of the question?
Just about like if you thought,
Remote testing.
yeah.
So-
there was some-
Yeah, what we have done, so we don't do much of like remote testing, like we're watching from a webcam and we're screen sharing. That takes a lot of digital skills, first off, so only certain people are going to feel very comfortable with doing that, and that's tough. I am interested in doing that because I just had a call from one of our testers just a couple of days ago where she wants to participate, but she's stuck in her home. She can't get out. So I'm going to talk to her about her skill levels, what kind of computer she has at home, and maybe get a better idea of how I can bring people in that really can't make it outside of their homes. We have
you guys
done.
do a lot of like qualifying and pre-test questions,
Mhm.
like through the form.
Yeah, through the screening questions. Yep. Yes. I also learned a lot about accessibility when I brought in the ADA 25 about making forms accessible and how to like make it, and that's a lot. Like no drop-down menus is what I've learned. Just don't do it. So, but we've done remote testing in terms of giving people an app or letting them use a website on their own. It's really good. We recently did a test for the Ventra transit app, which Ventra is the payment system in Chicago, and they were able to use the app for a week or so on their own, and I sent a couple questions out, just kind of see how things were going, make sure they were able to download it, and then we brought those people in to do some more testing afterwards, so we have that balance of answers. I saw your hand up.
Okay. Can you talk about some specific apps that you tested, and where do you get them from? And how do you know if one's like ready for testing?
That's a good question. I like the last one. I think it's always ready to be tested. I mean, you don't need much. You don't need, and you can have. It depends. I format the test based on where you're at in the process. We've done beta testing. We've done fully, live things. We've done alpha stage. We've done wireframes. So a lot of these things are dependent on where the developer is in the process. We have a form online, and if you fill out that form, that kicks off the process to get tested. And a lot of the tests have come from being part of the tech community in Chicago, talking about CUTGroup. And at first it was hard, right? A lot of people were kind of skeptical about how we did usability testing, and I heard like a lot about not putting developers in front of people, things like that. So it took a little while, but I think that once we got a few tests under our belt, more and more people started coming to us and kind of realizing that they needed to bring in people earlier or during the process. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind just maybe it's in the book, like a list of
Okay.
examples, like what are some ones you've done?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Don't worry, Denise is going to tweet it. So
Okay.
go on to the next question.
No, but it's a good question. We've done a lot of different things. And we, like I said before, we've done all sorts of different versions, and we've done different topics. We've done things on like health and social services, schools, transit related. Now we're, Cook County, so government sites. You should check out the list. Yes.
So you're doing all of this with the same kind of universe of users. Do you get, do you see people learning how to be a better user, or any type of testing fatigue? I wonder about using the same tool over and over again.
Well, what's nice is not everyone who says that they're available gets to view.
Right,
So
sure,
like
yeah.
we do spread it out, and I keep track a lot of, like, if I told people no one time, to, you know, bring them up higher on the list the next time, and kind of figure out, you know, when the last test was, how many tests they've done. And so when I'm doing segmentation, those are kind of things that I'm looking at as well. And new testers do get priority in a new test, and we've had tests where almost everyone was a new tester. We do have some power testers, and they're awesome, right? And so the next thing that I want to do is, I'm tired of telling them no, because I know that they're power testers now, and I don't want them to be part of every test that we do. So I want to see if we can potentially do proctoring with them and bring them in and train them to be on the other end of it, because this is obviously something that they're very interested in doing. So that is my next goal. Yes.
Mine's very similar to that. I was wondering, unless just you and Denise, how do you train proctors? I think proctoring user testing is actually a really difficult, it's difficult to be good at it. So I'm wondering, do you do that? Do you train?
Yeah, so I do want to get like a core of proctors, specifically so I can do more things like different language tests. Like I would love to get in the rhythm of doing only Spanish sessions. So I do want to get a group of people. Right now, a lot of our work has been, yes, training the staff who are behind the project to participate and be proctors. And I'm lucky because a lot of Smart Chicago staff and consultants have participated as proctors and kind of know how to do it. But I've done tests as well where it's me and only other staff members. And it's just about getting them comfortable and ready and understanding what the goals of the test is and why we're asking things, and feeling confident in being a proctor.
Yeah, so do you have any tips about how you do that? Like, do you give them a copy of Don't Make Me Think, or like, what do you do?
So we generally have a meeting before the test where we go in depth. It's an hour to a few hours sometimes of all the questions. I talk to them about, again, it's like bringing people in as they come in, and just having like a calm attitude about it, and understanding that even though you know a lot, just letting them do, and removing your expectations about what's going to happen or how they're going to use your site, and just saying like whatever they do is the right thing in that moment. You know, if they're clicking on something or doing something that you did not expect, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're doing it wrong. We do a lot of testing as well with the testers' own devices. So we get a lot of devices that we're not even used to on a regular basis. So testers adapt to their technology, and they think about how to fulfill their goal. And so that's also something that we might not expect them to do something like download a PDF, open it up on this other app, look at it, be zooming around. Maybe we wouldn't go that far, but they would, because they're used to that. Hi. Yes.
Yeah. I guess I have two questions.
Yes.
I was wondering, first off, do you ever want us, like, testers of a certain demographic for a certain app, or do you generally want to, like, anyone and everyone? And then how do you structure your tests so it's easy to report the results? Because that's been
It's a lot of time.
yeah, it's a lot of time. And at the end of one of our tests, we have a lot of feedback, but it's like I'm curious how to like kind of approach the test so that it's easy to like synthesize the data that we get.
Right. So, yes, it's really hard the report is a tough thing, right? And I completely understand that it takes a lot of my time. So first, to answer your demographic question, we will ask demographics in screening questions, only if it's really relevant. And you know, most of the time it's not that relevant when picking testers. Like when you actually get to the core of what you're trying to test or who you want, it's not always defined as basic demographic information. I found that I've only had 2 tests where we've asked demographic information in the screening questions. One was for the Cook County website, the other was for MRelief, which helps you learn about eligibility in social services programs. Other than that, people do come in and they say, I want this persona, I want, Bob and Sally, and they explain who that is, and it's never about those demographics, it's always about the experience of who the person is. And that's what we try to do in those screening questions. So for the report, I use WooFoo, that's good, and I do a lot of quantitative questions, so Likert scales, yes or no questions, just to kind of get some really quick results and quick answers about the test. The qualitative is more difficult. I've done it in a bunch of different ways in terms of like what kind of information I produce in the report. I do a lot of like words, positive, negative interactions, and positive and negative experiences. It takes a long time, but it's one of the most valuable things to do, because if you're going through it, you really get a good understanding of it. I don't know. I don't know how to streamline it more. I think that what I want to do is do a lot more pathway questions. So seeing how many different ways someone can get to their goal, and capturing that more in a multiple choice style form. So did they search? Did they click this and this? Did they go to the drop down menu? I think that will help a lot to see what the trends are. Any suggestions on reports? Tools? I feel like this is the right group. Yeah. Anything else?
Yeah, I guess to the suggestion on reports and tools, I've been experimenting with this one tool, which is basically, it's just a rubric for quantitatively scoring the qualitative. And so I determined beforehand, like, what's a high score, what's a low score, and then I look for certain words or phrases or reactions, and then quantify from there. And it's been interesting. I've gotten good feedback from my team, but I'm interested in like making that like more rigorous and less just my own opinion. For instance, I'll score for like, score for digital familiarity. Are people familiar with digital tools? And I'll look for whether or not they use like UI language, for instance, or whether or not they sit back from the computer and like lean in.
Right.
There's so many possible ways one can express that. I get a lot of neutral, or I just didn't score that because I
or you're not sure, right?
Yeah, because I can't make that assumption unless they express it.
Right.
So it's been really interesting moving into the quantitative space without biasing the quantitative too much. And so to that end, I think having multiple people scoring these things is useful, and then really refining that rubric and sharing it out among the team and having that impact.
How we kind of deal with this, I do the analysis for each question and try to pull out words and things and reactions in that way, but that's all on the back end. Now, I also publish all of the information by tester, and so it's really interesting. I think that's a really cool thing to look at. Is first you see the questions and how the overall group did or reacted, and then looking at how each tester went through the tests themselves and see the patterns of how they normally search or look for things, or their expectations in that way. So I think by being open and by publishing as much as we can is really, really good and useful for the other end too. Yes.
Yeah, quick question. I want to go back to your earlier discussion about using the libraries.
Yes.
When they're there, are you using the libraries that have computer labs? So is that one of the reasons why you're using libraries, or how do you get people if they don't have their own computers?
We actually we bring our own laptops.
Okay,
So we have a little mobile tech unit that we take with us. I do encourage testers to bring their devices most of the time. It's just something about it where they're comfortable with it,
Right.
And it's a really cool thing to see how they're using them.
So my question is, and it's just something for future, and maybe you're already planning it, but there's tons of things going on in December with Computer Science Week, an hour of code. So this might be a really nice partnership to think about. I mean, anybody can do it, to think about putting the CUT group into computer science week, and we technically supposed to be teaching people how to code, but you've got kind of a captive audience and a lot of momentum, so that might be something. And then
No,
the
I
other
love that.
idea, yeah, the other idea might be with seniors,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm guessing that, you know, it's a target market that kind of falls to the wayside for a lot of
Yeah,
reasons.
it does.
Based on your accessibility comments, so I think that might also be something to figure out how to reach out to seniors and
Mhm.
make it again more of a social thing.
Yeah, it is social. It
Yeah,
really is.
So it's just some ideas
CUTGroup
for
is
expanding.
fun. I didn't make a slide for that, but CUTGroup is really fun, and there is a social aspect to it, and like this community, and I want to stress that. And I agree with you. I think that we could do better with the senior community. I don't know how yet, so I think that my next thing is, let's
Really
talk to
like it.
seniors about how they want to do usability testing.
Yeah.
I could go to some senior homes in Chicago.
And also go to, I mean, there's a lot of agencies, city agencies
Yeah.
that support seniors already, and ARC might be a really good partner.
That would be great. Yes. Yes.
So I have a question about the uptake of the CUT group among developers. It seems at this point now you have a fair amount of word of mouth, so lots of people are coming to you. But did it take a while to find people who were interested in kind of investing in the testing process and teaming with you? I mean, sometimes when people ask us about our CUT group, I kind of explain, the process that we go through. That first we have a meeting about kind of what you want to learn and who your testers are or should be, and all the way to the end. And they say, oh, that sounds like kind of long. I think I'm just gonna go ask some friends of mine.
Yeah.
Have you had that? What have you
Yeah, we did have that. I was really surprised because this is a resource, right? We can put it under like our developer resources, and we want people to take advantage of it. And at first, it was tough to get developers to take time to do that. I think too, the people that we were starting with are in civic tech, so a lot of them were doing it on a volunteer basis, or they were doing it like in the evening, and so they might not have had time or resources to do that. But it slowly started getting there, and it was really word of mouth. Like one person would get a test and they would tell someone else, and then we would do another test for that website. We did a lot, we talked a lot in our civic tech community about doing CUT group testing and trying to show the importance of the testing as well. Okay. I'm getting a symbol, so.
Great job.